these days. John, Carolina wins 17-14 in the upstate. They've won 2 of the last 3, both of those on the home field of the Clemson Tigers. We're going to have 1,000 different conversations, 1,000 different ways, clearly. But I couldn't help when this game ended but think of one dude in particular, a guy you know very well, Coach Tanner, who's soon to be stepping aside as the athletics director at Carolina. He hired Shane Beamer. A lot of people raised their eyebrows at him. I'm not so sure those eyebrows are still raised after he has turned this series around. And Coach Tanner, I know, and I saw Miss Karen was up there too. So the Tanners had a good time in the upstate this weekend.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And I think Ray is certainly got to be happy with where the athletics department as a whole is right now as he's walking out the door. So, I saw him up in the box for a minute on Saturday, and it was before the game, and we were doing a little chatting, and he was feeling pretty good about the game and going into it, and I'm sure he felt great afterwards. So yeah, definitely happy for him as he leaves, and has this athletics department in a really good place right now.
Yeah, there's no question. This football team finishing the regular season at 9-3, they've got at least one more game to play. I say at least because if they get into the playoffs, who knows, right? But when you look back, John, what is one word you would use to describe this group in 2024?
Resilient. I mean, you don't often see teams get better the way they did, and players get better the way they did over the course of the year, like they did. And I know Shane Beamer has been talking about fireproof, and that video that the creative media team put out yesterday is pretty incredible for those who haven't watched it. It's about a 3.5 minute long movie almost. That's really cool to go back and watch. I know they put out a ton, so it's easy to miss things, but those guys just we've talked a lot about how old those guys are and how mature those guys are. Even the young guys are pretty mature, and just the way they kept fighting and going through things and getting better over the course of the year. To go on the road and win so many games like that is just really impressive. 4-1 on the road. I think that's a great mark of what a great team really is.
Yeah, you said the word I was going to use, maturity, and certainly they'll have to replace a lot of that. But a lot of that also, falls on the shoulders of Lenore Sellers. I mean, he's the he'll be the clear-cut leader of the program moving forward if he's not already. And you mentioned development, so a couple quick notes I'll make there and let you take it. One, I can't think of a position group that I look at and don't think that they got better. I know the receivers will still command some criticism, but the group has gotten much better from what it was at the beginning of the season. And then Lenore Sellers, I mean, I guess if I this is a very surface level conversation on my ends. I haven't done enough research to prove myself right or wrong, but I just don't know if I've seen a quarterback, a redshirt freshman quarterback, now not a junior, not a senior, not a sophomore, a redshirt freshman quarterback start week 1 and finish week 12 or week whatever it is, but week 12 of their schedule, and watch, as Mike pointed out earlier, every single week improve. Like he never went down. I mean, you could argue a number here that he threw for less yards, whatever. That's fine. I'm talking about just improving as a quarterback every week. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it that quick. Definitely not in this uniform.
Yeah, I mean, the only time you could say that would be the Ole Miss game. I mean, he looked like he took a step back then, but he was coming off of an injury. I mean, he was out for the previous bye week, was out against Akron, missed the first half of the LSU game previously. I mean, it may have just taken him a game to get back into it. But yeah, I mean, that's I think people were discouraged watching his first some of his early action because he wasn't great out of the gate, and he got so much hype in the offseason. It's like, whoa, slow down. Like it's going to take a minute. Like, this guy's going to keep getting better, and he needs game reps, and that's really what it is. Like, he's got all the tools. What do you need? What has he not been able to have? It's time on the field, and that's how you get better. Mm-hmm. So, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Cade Klubnik has gotten a lot of praise, as he should, for the year that he's had this year. But he went through last year what Lenoris went through this year. And Cade got better along the way, but in the end last year, he still was making some really, we'll just call them as it is, some bad decisions in games. And Lenoris is making great decisions right now. Is this thing has gone deeper? So imagine what he is this time next year as he continues on his growth trajectory. I really love the place he's in right now. He's gotten to be better than what I thought he could get to this year, and I had pretty high hopes for him in general going into this. So I'm with you 100%.
I'll add too, JC. I know JC is going to talk. JC, I'll squeeze this in and you take it from here. I'll add this to the pick. Obviously, it looked like Harbor either ran the wrong route or didn't come back. It looked like the ball was thrown where it was supposed to be, because you don't see quarterbacks get that animated unless they know they were right. It's just the way that it looked. But after that happened, he was it was movie style stuff. Like, you could see it in his eyes, like, oh, get the hell with this. I'll figure it out. And he did. And you just you get competitors. But competitors who can perform at that level, at that age, that's rare. And South Carolina, I know Shane said after the game the other day, I think he was more setting it up for next year. But good for him, and standing there on national television saying, you're talking about Heisman Trophy guy. I mean, name a better player than this cat. That was a big moment for him. In the way that he responded after that pick was thrown, it was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were bringing in JC on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. I wanted to hear what you had to say first.
Go ahead. I'll tell you what, man, you go for it. Hey guys, it's okay. Let's just.
I'm saying, like, my mother and brother are on a chain text with me. My brother bought this crypto stuff for us, and it's going through the roof. And so I'm like looking at it going, oh my God. And so I got distracted. I apologize. but go ahead, Whittle. Let me get my thoughts back together.
I think that goes back to the maturity we were talking about earlier. Yeah, like there was a mistake there, and what could be a really costly mistake. I mean, it's the third time in the red zone that you've had a turnover, or on the not in the red zone, the opposite side of the field, I guess. You have a turnover on Clemson's side of the field. I think it was twice in the red zone, and you're trying to go down and score points, and it just for the way he was able to kind of shake that mistake off, whether it's totally on him, totally on Harbor, or somewhere in between, like, he's able to do that, and he's always been able to do that. And we know he had fumble problem for a long time, first half of the season, and he was still able to bounce back and make plays. Alabama game, for example. So I think he's almost got one of those defensive back mindsets. You just got to play the next play and don't worry about the previous one. So I think that's where that maturity comes in, and one of those little unique traits that he has that has benefited him over the course of the year.
John, I think we knew he's fast in a straight line. I think we all knew that, and I thought that. He showed that last year when he split the defenders and ran away from Vandy. Are you surprised at how quick he is in the pocket? I mean, it's I hate to even. It's Michael Vick type of stuff back there. Lamar Jackson type of escapability. At 242 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the power he has in his legs is certainly what's made him look that good back there too. Like, he just shrugs off defensive ends and linebackers. linebackers. I mean, it's not like a little 190-pound defensive back comes at him and he's able to get away. Like he's throwing off big old dudes, and big old dudes are just sliding off of him. It's impressive. Like I don't know. If I'm a defender, I don't really know how you can kind of account for that, but you're not used to it. And, but I thought he took Clemson. I don't think Clemson played very many guys, not that there are many guys like him, but runners like that, especially at the quarterback position. The Virginia Tech quarterback, Tyrone Jones, maybe was the most comparable guy, but I watched that game and I saw Clemson players taking bad angles on him, which goes to what you were saying about his speed. Sellers got yards because linebackers, safeties, whoever weren't in the right spot. They were getting beat to the spot. And I mean, I thought that was a really big deal that allowed him to get some yards, especially out in open space after throwing, defensive linemen off of him in the pocket.
There's a lot of Clemson guys that didn't know what to do when he was in open space.
The last touchdown.
Yeah, that kid was going the wrong way, Mike.
That kid's playing it like it's an option play. Like, dude, you gotta go after the ball. What are you doing? He faked himself out. Like, what in the world do you think? Imagine having to watch that tape on Sunday in front of a room full of your peers and coaches. But I think JC hit on the key word. It's the escapability that makes him so unique. There's been a lot of running quarterbacks that are supremely fast, and there's been some that are big. It's one of the reasons why I never liked the Cam Newton comp. Cam Newton was not that – he didn't have escapability. Cam Newton just ran over people.
Right.
Andrew Luck ran a better 40 in the combine than Cam Newton did. Cam Newton never had Lenoris Sellers type escapability, moves, quickness. That is next level. Like that is something that clearly separates from the pack. And as the passing game continues to evolve, now you've got a separator from the rest of the pack for sure. But already the running at that size and the escapability at that size is just something that, again, very few people on the planet possess.
Yeah, and I'll add this too. I not us here, but I continue to hear it. John, I don't know how much you've heard it nationally, if you've paid much attention at all, but because of what happened in the game with his legs on Saturday, some folks I feel like have kind of slipped up too. And he doesn't throw it great, or he's not there yet. He throws it very well, actually.
They didn't watch the Missouri game, did they?
I'm like, have these guys actually seen him throw the football? The ones that say that, I don't know. I think the question is, we hit on this earlier. Mike and JC both did. John, what does this mean? We're not in the offseason yet. Carolina's still playing, but it is transfer portal season, right? Hashtag. And you got all that stuff going on in the month of December. It's about to get wild. So what is Lenoris Sellers' impact for Carolina in the portal and beyond? I mean, this offseason could get kind of wild with him being the QB.
Yeah, and to your last point, I did catch a couple of national folks saying that about him passing the ball, and he doesn't always get rid of it, on time, but there are games where he certainly does and looks great. As JC mentioned, the Missouri game being one. I haven't seen a whole lot of the all 22 tape or whatever to kind of see what's open, what isn't. They didn't show a whole lot of those angles. It didn't feel like on the broadcast either. And, but it felt like he was maybe hanging on to it a little bit. But maybe not. That may just be my false perception, but I agree with you. He can certainly pass the football. But in terms of recruiting out of the transfer portal, I mean, who wouldn't want to come play for South Carolina right now? Like it's a hot team with a hot quarterback. I mean, there aren't any guys who are playing like head and shoulders better in the country than Lenoris Sellers right now. There may be some guys playing as well as he is, but there's nobody who's playing much better than he is. I mean, why is kind of the opposite of what Juice Wells did to South Carolina last year. Oh, you don't have a quarterback. I want to go find somebody who does. Well, players are going to go out there looking for a guy that they want to play with. And Lenore Sellers is going to be that guy this year instead of the opposite. So you look, if you're an offensive guy, a wide receiver, or whoever, if you're an offensive lineman, he sure makes you look pretty damn good too, right? So yeah, like I think he's certainly gonna attract players, and I think the program in general, with what they've got going on across the board, is certainly going to make folks take a really hard look. And then it comes down to I guess the financial piece of it too. But I don't think you have to overpay to get guys. You've had to overpay to get guys before. I don't think you got to overpay to get guys. You got everything in the world to sell right now.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead, JC. I see you.
No. I think they just need to do what they've been doing in the portal. I think you can get in dangerous territory when you have a successful season and all of a sudden you're turning your nose up to the Torricelli Simpkins of the world and the Kyle Kennards of the world and guys like that. I think the staff has done a tremendous job taking the right guys out of the portal, because if he had taken the wrong ones, the minute you lose to Alabama and you got 3 losses, you have problems. You don't rally and go beat Oklahoma and start winning. And I don't think Beamer's going to do that. He and his staff, they're too focused on like making the evaluation and making sure guys are fits. They protect the culture at all costs. They've done that every single year. You do have some guys that did not work out. I was about to say Juice Wells. That obviously was a guy that, and you'll have guys like that on every roster in college football. That's just, it's a numbers game, and you're going to have 2 or 3, but what you want to do is cut down on that. You want to be able to put together a team. Don't do what Florida State did last year and get greedy. And you take guys from these big time programs that were big time recruits that weren't playing at their old school. Cause you know why? It wasn't talent. They didn't have what it took to go play and insert themselves into the conversation at Georgia and Alabama and places like that. You got to make sure you take the right guys. And if that's ACC guys, if it's a group of 5 guys, if it's FCS guys, go do it. ACC transfers have done pretty well here,
Yeah, I was going to say, don't do what Florida State did last year. Do what they did 2 years ago. Like Craig said, get a Keon Coleman, and that helped them go 13-0. The other thing I would say is that in the portal wars, the 2 positions that are earning the highest price tags that make them the most difficult to get, it's quarterback, not surprising, and D-line. Well, Lenore Sellers is about to be a 7-figure guy, and Dylan Stewart is about to be a 7-figure guy, but they're already in your camp. You don't have to. I'm confident. I know there'll be a million internet rumors. I'm confident Carolina will do what's necessary to keep those 2 guys in house. I'm confident they're very happy where they are and are not like Juice Wells, who, by the way, Mr. Allergic to the Big Moment, dropped a number of key passes and ran wrong routes in the Florida game. That's sometimes addition by subtraction. But when you've already got, it's just like in the NFL and the salary cap, when you've already got your quarterback in place,
right,
that makes it so much easier to get the proper guys you need, because you're not just like going all out to get, like so many programs are going to have to do to get that position taken care of. You've already got it. So that makes it a little bit easier.
And I do expect them, they'll go do a Robbie Ashford type of get this year. Let's not confuse it here. I don't think they're going to be out of the quarterback market, but it's going to be similar to last year
for a backup. Yeah,
for a backup. But you need, you talk about D tackle, and that's a spot you can go get guys. They did it last year when they got Goodwine and Jules. They'll probably need 3 this year, depending on what happens with the JUCOs. That type of deal, and you can find. It was proven last year. DeAndre Jules unfortunately got hurt, but he was a really good player for this team. Michael Goodwine, thankfully, he's back next year. He didn't play a lot at Alabama, played at Carolina, and got better. You just got to go get guys like that. I think they're going to need an edge. I think they're going to need a couple of linebackers. The defense has to be retooled, but I don't want people to get it twisted, because it's not like South Carolina just went all in for a 1-year rented defense and hit the portal really hard. Now all those guys are going to be gone and they're screwed. This defense is primarily, and I'll get back to John, you look at it, okay, Kennard was a starter. Demetrius Knight Jr. started some of the time. Bam Martin Scott started, they kind of rotated it. I mean, he played a lot. He was an important player. The rest of these guys were all in the program, and most of them are from South Carolina. But you have a convergence of the guys from the portal this year leaving, that were 1-year guys. Also, guys that have been here 6 years. John, how long's Tonka Hemingway and Boogie Huntley been here? Forever.
I was a senior.
Yeah,
I was about to say, since John Whittle's in school.
We had just started the Big Spur, and Tonka committed to the Gamecocks. But no,
I had class with Tonka.
Yeah, but it was,
and we enjoyed every minute that they've been here too.
Oh yeah. Those guys have been great. So, and then you also have two guys in TJ Sanders and Nicky Manware, whose stocks, their stock's high enough. They need to go.
They need to go.
Yeah, if you want, my opinion, just about a lot of draft boards have TJ in the first round.
Yeah.
And I think he played like it Saturday. I thought he played the D line kind of, didn't get as much pressure as they want because Clemson got the ball out quick. Credit them for Garrett Riley, great game plan. But TJ Sanders played his butt off.
Yeah.
And they're gonna miss him. So there's a convergence of things on defense is what I'm trying to say. I don't want people to start just thinking, because that narrative will get pushed too. Well, they just go in the portal and get a bunch of guys. Now, this defense was a product of development, and a lot of guys that have been here for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think I made that point about a month ago. If you actually look, this is how you design it these days. Most of your guys you develop and you bring up, and then you plug the holes, and they did that. John,
unless you're Ole Miss, there's always that exception, that outlier, and it kind of worked for Ole Miss this year, and it certainly worked for Florida State 2 years ago. What was a disaster for Florida State this year. There's probably some other examples I'm not thinking about off the top of my head that were really portal heavy, and it did not work.
Right.
Then, of course, you got Ohio State that spent more money than God, and clearly they didn't either.
I think that's the point, though, Mike. I think we're all making the same point here. It is much more of a risk to go out and build one side or the other, or both, whatever, of the ball straight out of the portal than it is to develop players. It's easier to, I think that's the point. And you mentioned Ole Miss. That's a success story, by all means. But Florida State, no, A&M certainly wasn't a couple of years ago. Arkansas has had their issues with it.
Yeah.
So
no, I think Carolina's hit the sweet spot right now. You've got the great combination of homegrown developmental guys, and then the portal. In my mind, when your perfect scenario, everybody wants to have like what Georgia has, where you just get a couple guys every year because you just dominate nationally recruiting every year. That's not the norm. But I think the combination that Carolina has right now is a healthy one. Yeah,
they get guys, John. They get guys from lower levels that are pretty doggone good, right?
Yeah, they've done that, and South Carolina's losing a bunch off of this defense, obviously, as y'all noted. They still got a few guys coming back too. Jelon Kilgore should be back. DQ Smith should be back. Judge Collier should be back. Dylan Stewart should be back.
Swain,
Brian Thomas Jr. He flashed a little bit at times, especially later in the year. There's still a crux of pretty good players who will be back, and who knows. I agree with y'all on TJ Sanders and Nicky Manware. It's time for both of those guys to go, most likely. And I don't think Nicky Manware would have been acting quite the way he did, and maybe if he was planning on coming back. Yeah. But I'm with you guys on all of the portal conversation stuff, and that's a point that I've made for a long time too, is you've got to have the right balance, because you've got to have the right culture in the program, and have guys kind of assimilate into what you are versus bringing in what they are. And, I think that's a really big deal. And, you have to recruit too, because, like I've talked about before with with football, basketball, and baseball. Like you get a freshman who wants to be here, you take care of them. You don't have to go out there and spend the huge money. Like if Lenora Sellers and Dylan Stewart went out on the open market, they could probably get double what they'll get at South Carolina. But you don't need to be dollar for dollar because they love it here and want to be here. Same thing with Ethan Petrie. He could have gotten double or triple what he's getting at South Carolina but he loves being here. Same with Colin Murray Boyles. I mean, it's you have to go out and recruit good players and keep them around. Vakari Swain is somebody mentioned in the chat box. So yeah, I'm with you guys on every bit of portal thing that y'all described.
And same with John Whittle. If you went into the portal, I'm sure someone would pay you 3 times the amount that you're getting paid right now. But we're not going to let that happen.
Dude. I don't have any NIL money to give him.
Speaking of the portal, there's no such thing as the portal for coaches. They're under these things that you call contracts. What about Shane Beamer's contract? He's the winningest coach in Carolina history through 4 years. His deal is up in 2027. Coach Tanner is set to step aside here before long. Do you think they'll try to squeeze a deal through before Coach Tanner retires? Or, I mean, he's definitely owed an extension and probably a raise, but what the timing of that and who gives it to him is the question, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the athletics director usually brings to the table to the contract and does a lot of the discussion, but it ain't just the athletics director. So, I don't know who's going to handle it. I was talking with somebody the other day, South Carolina's got a couple of Olympic sport coaches who are up on their contracts right now. And the conversation right now is, do you let Ray handle these and handle these right now, or do you let the new AD come in and do it? So I think that's a conversation happening right now. That's more. I think that's a conversation that's happening right now on more than just football. So, it's a great question and it's a great thought. And there was a discussion a few weeks ago on the Big Spur message boards about what's Shane's contract going to look like at the end of the year. And, I thought he'd get an extension and a little bit of a pay bump, but the 3 weeks later is looking like it might be more than just a little bit of a pay bump. So,
it's another case, John, like you were talking about with a lot of the players who could have gotten more, but actually love being here. Shane strikes me as a pretty loyal guy who remembers Ray Tanner hired him when very few people were looking to give him a power forward job. And quite frankly, many people were critical, including after a 5-7 last year. It's pretty easy to forget. There were some people calling for his head and some people calling him a punk and other just like ridiculous crap. Shane to me will be loyal. I don't think Shane's going to be like, well, this school's offered me an extra, 0.5. So right. I'm going to leave unless you match that. I don't think that's in Shane's DNA. I think he remembers who gave him a shot. And I truly think either he's the best actor on the planet or he absolutely loves everything about the program, Columbia, the culture. Why would you want to walk away from that coming off a 9-10 win season? I don't see it.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100% on that. But as you know, agents get involved in these things too.
Oh,
and
sure.
Gotta
He's a Sexton guy, isn't he?
Yeah, and
like everybody else in the league.
his agent advised him not to sign the initial contract that South Carolina offered him. Wanted him to take more money, and Shane did it. He took less money. To be clear, he took less money. He didn't wait like his agent advised him to. But you gotta I guess figure out how strong of a voice the agent is going to have in letting him sign whatever South Carolina wants to put forth. But I agree with you. He's not going to quibble over dollars with South Carolina. You are certainly correct. And this is a spot where he wants to be, like the whole home thing. And, this is where he's always wanted to be. All of that's real, as I know everybody who's sitting here knows, but you battle with people sometimes on social media, on the websites, or whoever outside of the program that say, well, he's a Virginia Tech guy, or he's this, or he's that. He's just not. Like, I know his alma mater is Virginia Tech, and I know he loves that program, but he's a South Carolina guy. And
absolutely. Ray Tanner's alma mater is NC State. You think he was ever going to leave the head coaching job with the Gamecocks for the Wolfpack? No. You never forget who gave you your shot, and you never forget who you had all these great memories with. That trumps alma mater every day of the week.
And you have to keep in mind, too, Beamer's background. I mean, I'm privy to this information since before he came here. His dad, if you ever notice, when Lou Holtz was hired, Frank Beamer was a guy on the list for the job. And he always told young Beamer growing up, the best jobs are South Carolina. He thought North Carolina, Georgia, and they had a list of jobs. Well, not a lot of coaches feel like South Carolina's the best job. But if your dad, who's a Hall of Famer, told you that, and you enjoyed the hell out of your time here when you were an assistant, and you loved living here, and your kids were born here, and it's a special place to you and your wife, and you were born in Charleston and consider yourself a native, as he said many times. I mean, it's not just, hey, I was there coaching for Spurrier, and this is where I want to be, and but wait, I'm really a Hokie or whoever. Beamer will get a fair contract, probably a raise, deserves it. He's the winningest coach after 50 games in the history of the program. And the guy that had the record before him won 86 games and lost 49 here and is in the Hall of Fame. So it's trending in the right direction, guys.
Yeah, no doubt. You know what I'd look for on the contract, even though it's the furthest thing from anybody's mind today on December the 2nd, 2024. Coaches now, they want safety nets because they know no matter how good things are going, the bottom can always fall out. Look at Kentucky and Mark Stoops right now. I'll dare say, without knowing off the top of my head, John, JC, Jamie, you guys might know, he's probably got one of the lowest buyouts in the league. I would bet you that.
I don't think that's going to change, man. And
I don't think so.
I don't think schools are going to play that game. Somebody call Jimmy Sexton because it's with revenue sharing. You got to pay players now. You just can't afford it. And I think of all people, Shane Beamer would understand that. Now, John, real quick, what do you think? Because I'm talking out my butt.
I mean, I think the vast majority of, and I'm certainly not a contract reporter, but I think most of these contracts have a percentage of your total contract, and I'm not all of them do at South Carolina for head coaches, but I think most of them throughout the league have a percentage of your total contract remaining is your buyout, and Shane's is 65%. I've seen those numbers vary a little bit, and the Mississippi schools are different because of their state government structure. But Shane's when it gets reset will be pretty high up there just because of the contract structure and 65%. And you put him out to 6 or 7 years at $8 million a year, and all of a sudden it's huge. So I imagine that his buyout will be pretty high.
Yeah, 65%. And I think in addition to that, I think there's a $1 million decrease each year too, I think. But either way, it's not $100 million or $60 million or
yeah, some contracts are certainly structured really stupidly, and that was one.
Yeah. John, it is always a pleasure, and it's Mondays have been easy for a little while around here. Carolina on a 6-game winning streak, so we just keep.
It's kind of nice, and you're not having to battle with people about dumb coaching decisions. Like if the worst thing you can say negative was should have never done that onside kick, you've had a pretty good week.
I thought it was a great call, to be honest.
I did too.
I thought it was one of the better calls of the game. Just didn't work out.
Yeah, it is amazing on that, guys. Every onside kick that they do, even when they don't recover, because the odds are always far against you to recover. But I mean, they might have the best looking onside kicks of any team in the country the last few years. Like those are not easy to perform.
Nope.
but they do it perfectly, like every single time.
It was really
Shout out Spring Valley Gamecock Alex Herrera on his field goal make.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. I was so happy.
I've got
for
that in
him.
my notes.
Clutch.
Yep, no doubt.
Go Vikings.
Jeez.
He deserved that.
Go Vikings.
He
Oh,
deserved
yeah.
that. John, have a marvelous, and it's going to be chilly, so maybe have some chili Monday. We'll see you next week, brother.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
John.
Sean.
Thanks, John.
All right, we'll hit a timeout.